Love is our true divine nature, and our heart serves as the intersection of the spiritual and physical, connecting our soul with our body as the conduit for anchoring our divinity onto the earth plane. Embodying our divinity is the key to our ascension and to manifesting our highest destiny in this life. The teachings of the heart are alchemy. Join spiritual mentor and channel Jennifer Spohr each week on a sacred journey to lift the veil to remembering your divinity and meet other beautiful souls who are living the path of the awakened heart. Hey everyone, I am really excited and overjoyed to welcome as a special guest to the show today, Karen Abrams. She is a prominent Theta healing master healer, gifted intuitive, and international best-selling author. She uses remote sessions to delve deep into belief systems and programs to help remove the root causes of disease and emotional and financial blocks, allowing her clients to bring about more prosperity and joy into their lives. And we can always use more of that. Welcome, Karen.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here too. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it. But for the listeners, I had the honor of receiving a session from Karen recently, and it was really transformational. And I'm sure there will be lots of juicy things that we'll share with everyone about that. So I'm really excited to have Karen here today and to showcase the amazing work and just her as a person, because she's really amazing as well. So Karen, I'd love for you to share with us, more about Theta healing and how it is different from, say, Reiki, because uh Theta healing is out there in the world, right? But I feel like Reiki, thankfully, is becoming a lot more mainstream and even practiced in
Absolutely.
some hospitals too. But
Yeah.
Theta is still not quite as mainstream,
hmm
yet it's an amazing modality. So I'd love for you to share more with us about the nature of that.
Okay. So theta healing is basically a meditation that connects you both to your subconscious mind and to your inner wisdom. Now, some people call that God or source or universe too. So whatever word works right there. And what it helps you do is energetically connect to that place and then identify what are the belief systems that are holding you back. I'm nothing. I'm worthless. Nothing ever works out for me. Those kinds of things that kind of are like a weight around your ankles. And also it addresses the trapped emotions that you have. So we've all got anger, we've all got abandonment, we've all got trauma somewhere in there that are really weighing us down and affecting the kinds of decisions that we're making. And with this work, you can actually transform that into unconditional love and understanding and compassion. And so when you hit it at both places, which is obviously the belief level, which is sending the signal out, right? And then that feeling level that's bringing the event back into us, that's attracting something to us. And you can change both of those places into powerful and positive foundations for us. Then you start feeling more uplifted. And because you feel uplifted, you start doing more things for yourself, in support of yourself. You start making better decisions. Your boundaries get better. You believe like, oh, I actually deserve to be treated well. So maybe you actually walk differently. The energy that you're putting out there. So those relationships that you have that are really challenging, where somebody has sort of a power over you, to trigger you and that sort of thing, that starts to change because energetically people go, oh, she's walking in here differently. I don't treat people like that, like this. And even, I don't know, I can say more importantly, but one of the most important things here too is that those barriers that are keeping you from taking the actions that you need to take right now start coming down. And it's easier for you to kind of reach in and get what you want from your life and have a more fulfilled life. And that is the true gift, because, we're creating this life that we have. We're responsible for the life that we have and how we react to the life that we have. And if we're here to, and I hope you would sign on to have a really fulfilling life, these are the places that we need to work on to make it better for ourselves. And the way it's different, I feel the same way about Reiki when you were talking about Reiki,
Mhm.
because I always say, bless you, bless you, bless you, because you got in there into that conventional world and showed people that energy can change matter, and energy can relieve stress, and energy can bring about inspiration and all of these sorts of things. And they were able to do a lot of research so that there was empirical evidence that this works. So that's the only way that it's similar, is in that sense. And I've had a few Reiki sessions in my life, but not a ton, so I can't say that I'm a big expert on it. But what I felt in those sessions was that you create an intention, and then there's a lot of energy of unconditional love that comes in to help you create that in your life. And I'm sure if they're using it for medical things, then it's like, lowering pain not threshold, but like lowering pain and reducing stress and mental and physical stress and things like that. So in those ways it's similar, because this work is about loving and accepting yourself. And when
Mhm.
you do that, you're more in your body, you're you're in this place, you're just in a healthier space, both physically and mentally and emotionally and energetically. And where it's different is that we're accessing your subconscious mind, which I'm unaware that Reiki goes there. Like I said, I'm unaware.
Mhm.
And we're marrying that divine energy with that subconscious access. So you're bringing in essentially the most loving perspectives that you can bring in to an issue that you're having, in trying to release a block or trying to move forward when you feel stuck. And so that's kind of how we roll.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautifully articulated. Thank you. I'm actually a trained practitioner in holy
Okay.
fire Reiki. So,
Oh,
uh,
great. So you know more than I do,
yep.
clearly. Yeah.
Yep. So the way that you explained that was really, really clear. And I share that perspective as well. Um, my experience, Reiki serves as, in my experience with clients and on my own journey, right? Like Reiki has served as like a portal or like an opening to
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
gateway to even
Uh-huh.
deeper experiences,
Uh-huh.
consciously, subconsciously, and energetically. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in my experience in my session with you, right? Because I work in the Akashic Records
Uh-huh.
a lot, there's a depth to Theta, right?
Yeah.
Working at the subconscious, where it shares actually a lot of similarities with the
Oh,
Akashic
wonderful.
Records, right? Like
Okay.
they
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
exactly the
Mm-hmm.
same thing, but there is a depth that you're
Mm-hmm.
going into, right? At a
Right.
subconscious level and at a cellular level where you're experiencing some of those deeper shifts. So Reiki absolutely serves an amazing purpose, but they are, Theta and Reiki are two different modalities. So thank you for doing such an amazing job explaining the difference between those. I'm really passionate about, informing and educating our listeners. And I'm going to be talking more and more about energetics and frequency, even more so than I've done in the past, because for the last, however long it's been, a few thousand years or so, as humans, we've been really looking at creating from the outside in, and in manifesting practices and a lot of higher
Mm-hmm.
level manifesting practices, we do talk about, right, control your thoughts, your emotions, and all the things to create what you want. But it really all starts with frequency, right, and
Mm-hmm.
energies, and that's really like the 0 point,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is my belief.
exactly. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to, those old paradigm beliefs about that it has to take us a long time to heal, that it
Right.
has to be this long, drawn out, very difficult, painful journey,
Yeah.
is in of itself actually a belief, right?
Right.
A
Right.
limiting
Yeah.
belief. And so really pursuing more of these modalities, whether it's Theta, the Akashic Records, or anything else, I feel like you are able to transcend that linear time, you know,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and make quantum leaps in your
Mm-hmm.
ascension and your transformation.
I believe that, when you go into the theta wave, so the theta brainwave is also when you're tipping off into your dream state, right? It goes to like 4 to 7 cycles a second. And it's a very powerful place for us to lose time. When you feel like you're not here or you're not there. And I always talk about this have you ever woken up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and you can't fall back asleep? And so you're like looking around and you're doing this and you're doing that. And all of a sudden 2 hours passed and you have no idea where it went. And I think that's when you're in that theta brainwave,
Yeah.
you lose time and you're just in this creative spot. And so there's a lot of power in this place.
Yeah, absolutely. I have those experiences in meditation too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Where if I don't set a timer, you know, kind of get into a zone and then I'll come
Oh
out.
yeah, you'll stay there
Oh,
forever.
yeah,
It
where'd
feels
that
so
go?
good.
Where'd
Yeah.
that time go? That's when you know you're like really in it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
what inspired you to this work? I mean, what's your story?
My origin story. Well, I think for a lot of people, I was a bystander to somebody else using this work. So I had a friend who had major issues that were going on in her life. And she started working with Vienna Steibel, who is the founder of Theta Healing, remarkable, remarkable teacher and human being. And she started working with her. And I had had a session like a year earlier for like a half an hour, and I wasn't really sure what it was and all of that sort of stuff. But now I got to watch, like I had popcorn and I was on the sidelines watching. And so my friend had health issues that weren't being treated by doctors because they didn't know what to do with it. And then she had a relationship that was not going anywhere. It was a long-term relationship. She wanted it to move into marriage. It just wasn't going there. And then she also was alienating her clients. She was getting in knockdown, drag out verbal fights with them. So her business was thwarted. She was throwing her clients away essentially. And so I watched her over a period of time have everything start to transform. So her health started getting better. She started finding better practitioners for herself, and other self healing that she was doing. This relationship turned into a very beautiful friendship and just kind of seamlessly moved over there. It wasn't even, I don't know about you, but when I've had long term relationships and they've turned into friendships, you need that time away from each other. They didn't have that. They just went beautifully into this other space. And then those that anger, all that anger that she had, that she was getting triggered by these clients, was resolved so she could keep them. And she was a brilliant person and her business just took off. And when that part happened and she started making a lot of money, I went, oh, okay, that's interesting. And that was a challenge for me at that point in time. So I signed up for a class. She was hosting Vienna for a basic class, a basic theta healing class. And I'm like, well, I might as well do this, look what it did for her. And so I went in and watched Vienna work with people. And within 5 or 10 minutes of bringing somebody to the front of the room and saying, what do you want to work on? If you could snap your fingers and change something in your life right now, what would it be? And then we just worked on something and watch her get to the root issue, heal it. This person has this really beautiful realization, a few tears, and looks 10 years younger. And I watched them the whole weekend and they looked like that the whole weekend. Their eyes were very clear. And I was like, ooh, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to have that kind of impact in that short of a period of time. I mean, wow, that's amazing. So after this 3-day class, I remember being in my house, in my apartment, and I was breathing really deeply. My chest was very expanded. I felt very open and grounded at the same time. And my speed had just changed. It wasn't like, ba, 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 ba. It was just really nice and even. And I remember going, what is this? What is going on with me? Why do I have so much space around me? It wasn't a feeling I knew existed. And then I had been working on with my therapist for the past year and a half, anxiety that I'd had for 6 years. And we had gotten it to a place that was really so much more manageable than it ever had been. We did great work together. And there was still this little chunk that I couldn't get at. And I'm like, what do we have to do to get to this? I would have done anything because I was like looking at him. I stopped cracking jokes. I'm very much that person, and I was just like, what do we need to do? And we just weren't accessing that little chunk right there that was still having me wake up in the morning startled. And then my body was vibrating all day long. I was shaking all day long. And so in that moment, I went, oh my gosh, this anxiety is gone. And it was the first time in 6 years that my body had been completely out of fight or flight. And usually when I noticed that I was calm, that's when it would snap back in, because then my nervous system was so used to that as normal that it would just go back to that. And I just, I couldn't believe, I was so happy. I couldn't believe it in the moment, but it didn't change. And I just stayed calm. And I, if I could have done backflips, I would have. And I did the version of that, which was sign up for every single class that Vienna was teaching. My friend was teaching practice classes at that point in time. So I was in those a few times a week. And about 3 weeks later, some of those symptoms came back, like a little bit of the tremoring, the shaking started coming back, but it wasn't what it was. It was like, I don't know, a third of what it was or less. And by then I was practicing the technique. And so I just kept healing it, and it kept chipping away, and the level just started going down and down and down till at some point in time, I didn't notice it anymore and I moved on. So there wasn't like this bell ringing or this finish line for me, with the ticker tape parade.
Yeah.
It was just that, probably like when people experience chronic pain, it dials down to a certain point that you don't notice it anymore and you move on with your life. And that's what I did. And that's how I got in. Just with that, spontaneous healing was remarkable.
Yeah. I feel like I experienced something similar in our session. I
Oh,
have been doing work for years, right, around ancestral stuff, familial,
mm-hmm.
feeling safe kind of stuff to be
Uh-huh.
seen in the world. And in my session with you, it was, I mean, very deeply transformational. I didn't realize, that there were all these new, deeper
Uh-huh.
layers, right, that I was still carrying. I think you had made, not in the same context exactly, but a reference to that. It's just kind of like we get used to
Mm-hmm.
carrying that stuff, and you don't necessarily realize just how much, you're still carrying.
Yeah. And I think it's, and when we were talking about this earlier, that when you're called to a new place in your life, to a new level of success, to going after your dream, whatever it is, or you've just got the job you've always wanted, whatever that thing is, or finally have a great friend, whatever that is, it's a new level that you're not used to yet. So your inner resources have to be stronger to be able to receive it, even if it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And so you might find the love of your life, and that brings back old abuse that you had from something. Well, that's because love is replacing it and the abuse is coming up to be healed. But now you get this opportunity to go, well, if I want to sustain this love, for instance, that I have to heal this abuse so that I can stay in this beautiful relationship. Or, like you said, you're just called to something bigger than you've ever done before. So it's an important time to peel that onion a little more so that you can be there for yourself in the best way, and move forward in this best way, and keep bringing it in, bringing in that good stuff, because that's what we really want.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this conversation, of course, is so
Mm-hmm.
divinely on time, because there are many of us, right, who are being called to step into that next level of expansion in our lives.
Absolutely.
And one of the million reasons why I love having this podcast is because it's a great vehicle for us to share with each other and to connect with each other and to, relate to each other in that way. Because even though each one of us is unique, we really do share a lot of similar experiences on our paths, I found.
Absolutely. I wanted to share with you. So I have this client who I've been seeing, and I see people regularly, or in small amounts, depends on what people want. But this woman had grown up in a very emotionally abusive house. And so she was walking on eggshells because she didn't know when things were going to turn, and her parents would kind of turn. And, as a child, you're in theta from 0 to 7. You're in theta 7 years old. You're in theta all the time. So everything that happens is embedded in your
Mhm.
subconscious. So she thinks I'm doing something wrong to cause this, because that's what children think. And anyway, she's a brilliant kid. When she moved out into the world, she had those feelings of inadequacy, that I'm always wrong, those beliefs I'm always wrong, people always turn on me, those sorts of things. She was attracting jobs, even though they would that had the same thing, that the bosses would turn on her. So they, she got hired and they're like, "Oh, you're brilliant, you're wonderful, you're going to help us solve our problems." And the minute she got comfy, they turned on her. And so we worked on all of healing those traumas that she had as a child, and understanding that she was okay. This was something that her parents were going through, not her. They were reacting to something in their past, and taking that out on her. And as her worthiness grew, self-care grew. And she started doing more things for herself that she really loved to do. And then she started doing other meditation also, to help her with her nervous system and regulating that and making that connection. And recently she got a job, and the first time in all the time that I've known her, where they hired her with that same enthusiasm and optimism, and stayed in that space. Like, she's really helped them. They love her, they appreciate her, and they want her to stay, and she's making more money than she's made. It's just all come together, and it's just such a wonderful thing to see, and to witness that and that she could feel that, wow, that could actually happen.
Mhm. And she's been working with you on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, she was working with me ongoing. And like I said, some people, it happens, they have like a little project. I'll give you another example of a guy who was a medical salesman, and he was in a slump for a while, and he couldn't sell his machine. And so we just went into, okay, so what's the trigger? What's triggering this to keep going? And we healed the root cause within, I think it was 1 or 2 sessions. Right after that, his sales went up 400%, and the company in 30 years had never seen somebody get there that quick, ever, actually. So it can happen quickly, and some things happen more slowly. It just depends on where you're at. I always think of it this way, and maybe since you're a healer, you might agree with me, that healing first goes to the path of least resistance. So if
Mhm.
you're there and you're like, okay, I can't rub two nickels together, I'm giving it up, please help me, and they really are, then boom, change, this happens, this money came in, or this job came in, or whatever happens, right? Or my investments went up. And then other times people could have that same thing, but they have so much resistance around receiving the money, because they have fears there that didn't get immediately, healed, because they're so deep seated, they need more time. Then that person, maybe their relationship with their mother gets better, or they found $20 in their pocket, or some other nice little thing happened. So the universe is opening up, but it's opening up somewhere where they felt comfortable first, because they've been out of it so long, they don't recognize themselves with more abundance. And so it just depends where people are at and what they're ready to do. And when you keep working on it, it just, as like I said, you start feeling better and lighter, and then you are such a participant in your own healing and making yourself happy, that everything starts opening up more and more as you move along in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. We have free will,
Yeah,
and sometimes we can assert our free will, which comes across in the form of resistance at even a subconscious level. We don't
right.
even necessarily fully realize that we're using our own free will to resist receiving that deeper kind of healing. So that's such a great example that you
Yeah.
shared of that.
Thank you. I think there's what happens is we get dual, we have like dual beliefs and dual feelings about it too. So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I want to be wealthy, as an example, but I'm afraid of it, because wealthy people are selfish and only think of themselves and don't help anybody else, or money's the root of all evil. So you
Yeah.
kind of bet you hit a wall with it, and you've got to break those walls down, so that you're like, no, no, actually money is a spiritual enterprise. It's a place to love yourself, and it's just an energy, and and treat it like a cherished friend, and it'll treat you well. And so we just gotta realize those sorts of things, and start bringing in that energy and that action together, so that we can move forward, ride that wave.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've found, yeah, I mean, we have so many stories around money.
Yeah.
I know for me, my own personal journey, a lot of it for me has been working with myself to allow myself essentially to feel safe, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
The result of abuse and childhood trauma and other
Hmm.
experiences, right? So yeah, it's kind of difficult to allow yourself to receive money and love and all of
Yeah.
these other things, right? If you're
Yeah.
constantly in this state of being on high alert, essentially.
Yeah. Hypervigilance is something,
Yeah.
and you expect being attacked and things. You have to have those barriers up to protect yourself. And that's how you chose to do it. And it's just now realizing that. I remember my teacher Vienna said that one of the greatest forms of protection is actually forgiveness. And but we don't grow up thinking that. We don't even grow up knowing what forgiveness is, just that it takes a lot of time. And I learned it by going up in a theta meditation myself and just asking what it was. And what I learned was it's about letting go of the pain that you've caused yourself and that others have caused you. And when you do that and you realize you're responsible for your actions, they're responsible for their actions, this is just about, are you ready to let go of that pain? And if you can answer yes to that, then you can go somewhere really meaningful and free yourself from, holding
Yeah.
on to that thing, you know?
I'd love to get your thoughts on something you had said, right? Asking yourself the question, going within, and then if the answer is yes.
Hmm.
Um, Something I talk about a lot is feeling that truth in your body, feeling what truth feels like for you, right? Because at more of a surface level, mentally, you could go within and ask yourself the question and tell yourself yes, but you might not. That just might be coming from a compartmentalized space. So,
Yeah.
what would be your advice, or like what insight would you want to share for someone to get tuned into what that truth is, right? Like what that true yes is for them.
Well, I think that I have a couple of answers here, but the one that's really coming to me is when you lean into your joy and what makes you feel happy, you you open up something inside of yourself that was there from the moment you were born that you may have had to shut down just to have protection from whatever. And when you start to do that, you start how do I put this? Let me come step back just a little bit. People that come to me are people who are in the sandwich generation. So they've got kids, they may have a marriage, they're taking care of their aging parents, and they're professionals, they have their own, business. And so they're taking care of everybody else's needs before themselves. And what happens is and as givers, right? We tend to be the givers and the rocks of the family and things like that, that you break the promises to yourself first. I can't do that. I have to get my kid from school. She just threw up. My mom fell. She's in the hospital. I got to go over here. They're legitimate things that need attention, but we tend to throw away our joy to attend to them. And these things do need to be attended to. We just need to create other spaces for ourselves that we can experience that and bring that back. So when we break those promises, we start losing faith in ourselves and our ability to create the life that we want. And so when we start leaning to the joy again, we're building those promises up. You're building that trust in yourself up, which strengthens your intuition, strengthens your trust in yourself. When you trust yourself, you start emanating that out in the world, and all of these situations where you trusted yourself that turned out really well start showing up. And you're like, "Ooh, I'm really good at this." You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
just start strengthening that muscle that has atrophied because you've been a giver and weren't allowing yourself to be a receiver also.
Yeah. It's so interesting. As you're speaking of that, right, about joy, I just am feeling this wave of energy coming in, and my higher self just keeps saying, yes, this experience is glorious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun to be in that space. I had this, I'll just tell you another like quickie. there was a child that I worked with, like she was a teenager, excuse me. I called them children.
Well, technically she.
But, you know, right, technically she's still legally a child. And she was having bipolar. She was starting to show bipolar symptoms. And we started doing work together, and that shifted for her too. Whatever imbalance was there, you know, and I'm not, and I'm always saying, whatever's going on with you, my feeling is go everywhere to change it. You know, whatever your challenge is, go to the doctor, go to the therapist, go do meditation, do
Yeah.
energy work, like do everything you can and leave no stone unturned. And this was something she did. And within, I don't know, it was like a week or so, those symptoms and those behaviors went down into nothing, which is really great. I love when things like that, when people kind of open up and then just
That's
things
really
just happen.
profound.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some signs or markers, if you will, that someone could consider that would indicate to them, to reach out for support, right? Or that theta could be something that would be beneficial for them.
I believe that if you feel like you should be further along in your life than you are right now, there's something that's
Mhm.
holding you back. And most likely you've been working on it. You know, most likely this isn't your first, time around the track with
Yeah.
it. And if you've been working on things and there's just this one thing or these two things that you keep coming up, and for whatever you've done, it's not really working, that's a time to go deeper. And I always say so there's definitely some deep-seated programming going on, because if you don't have a modality that reaches down into your subconscious mind, you're just painting a dirty wall. Okay. You
Yep.
need to be able to get to that place. And when you marry that with this divine energy and work on all the levels that we work on, it's a really thorough and beautiful and loving and powerful and light experience. I always say it's the lightest way of letting go of the heaviest things in your life, because at this point it's about letting go of that energy because it's been weighing you down. So, if you're just carrying around too much baggage and you can't see around it, then that's a wonderful time to come.
Yeah, I love that answer. Thank you. I asked that question because we do in spiritual communities and in personal development talk a lot about the need to go within and how we have all of the answers within, right? And
Hmm.
I think sometimes some people can take that to the extreme
Right,
and
right.
not, reach out for support, and it's okay to reach out for support. We're wired to connect with each other, and so having kind of some markers that people can take into consideration to indicate that, oh hey, it's time for me to reach out, and that's okay to do so. I think that's so important.
Thank you. I'm a firm believer that nobody does anything alone. There's nobody who's
Yeah.
really truly self-made, because
Yes.
there's always somebody that you've leaned on, or there's information that came from someone else.
Yeah.
We can't do it alone. We have to do it with other people. Um, so do it, if you're ready to just come and take the step. It's just beautiful. It's wonderful. I thank God that I have it every day, because it's also just a coping skill for when life
Yeah.
turns left. And
Yes.
also when it turns into something really beautiful that you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to sustain this kind of feeling. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yes. Yeah. The Akashic records are that for me. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do dabble in other areas, too, because I'm always looking to expand. But yes, the Akashic records for me are that kind of go-to.
Yeah, it's such a wealth of information. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even, I mean, regardless of all of the knowledge and power that we have, right, it still can be challenging for us to see things for ourselves sometimes. And that's where also having that support is so beneficial, because you have somebody, right, who's kind of
Yeah.
outside your bubble.
Yeah, exactly. Hand it over to somebody else to have a different perspective and see if it resonates with you, and use some work. This work is just really very gentle and very powerful. So there's
Absolutely.
there's nothing that, I can
Yes.
do to someone. Everything is per your own permission. So you're really very involved in the process.
Yes, and speaking now from firsthand experience, I can attest to how powerful your work is, how powerful it is to work with you. And to say that, we touched on this briefly earlier, uh,
Mhm.
that regardless of the resources available to someone, they do need to be intentional about being
Mhm.
ready to release,
Yes.
whatever it is that they're experiencing, because our free will, the way that God's source that we've been
Mhm.
created, right? We have that gift in every instance, and we really need to be in that space where we're ready to deeply surrender to that, to releasing that, and to knowing what that feeling of surrender feels like for us. Um, Karen, you have a special free gift that you want to share with the listeners today, right? Tell us about that.
Yes. So it's called Love Yourself, and I think it's about a 5-minute theta healing meditation that basically all you're doing is you're receiving feelings, energetic feelings to help you love yourself at a new level. And because I really believe that ultimately that's what this work is about loving yourself and accepting yourself unconditionally. So all you have to do is listen to it. I always say if you listen to it right before you go to sleep, then that's the last thing that's going to be marinating in your subconscious mind for the next 7 or 8 hours. So you might as well get for 5 minutes to get an 8 hour session out of it. It's pretty cool. It's more bang for your free buck. So I love this work and I love that meditation. It's very special to me. I think people will really like it a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Karen, just in closing, what else are you feeling guided to bring forward?
I believe that everything matters. Everything that happened to us matters.
Mm.
And I think it's important to acknowledge what you've been through and how you got to this place in your life, because sometimes we don't realize how far we've come because we but ourselves to death, like, oh yeah, I have a house but I don't have a husband, or yeah, I have this but I don't have that, right? And we stop ourselves. And I think one of the most important things is to do is just to stop and acknowledge, like, wow, look at me, this is pretty cool, I came from a lot, and look what happened and look where I'm at, and to really start acknowledging what your strengths are and start acknowledging what's right about you. Because the more you do that, because you already know what you want to change, but sometimes what we do is we kind of focus on what needs to be healed and only on that. And we just kind of, and we limit ourselves instead of say, no, we're a lot of things. There's some things we're really great at, and there's some things that we still need to work on. But altogether, it's a pretty glorious thing. And so it's just really important to acknowledge all the wins that you've accomplished and be in that space of acknowledging how strong, how vital, and how important you are.
Such wise words. I
Thank you.
agree. Yes, I
Yeah.
believe that so much. The um, societal ancestral programming around, that we have to be focused on what we don't have and what we've yet to attain, right?
Hmm.
We rarely celebrate, really, just create enough space to express our gratitude and acknowledgement for
Hmm.
really just how powerful we are. And
Yeah.
redefining, right, for ourselves, realigning to the truth of what it means
Hmm.
to be in that power too.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yes, amen, sister. Amen to that. Karen, what an absolute just honor and joy and treat to have you as a guest. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and all of your magic and your amazing work with us. And we'll have all of your links and your link to your free gift and everything else in available for listeners in the show notes. If someone's feeling guided to connect with you more deeply beyond this conversation, where is the best place for them to go to do that?
Well, you can go to my website, which is thinktheta.com. So it's like when you think THINK theta, THETA.com, and you can get my contact information, my email, which is Karen at Think Theta, or my phone number. It's all there for you to reach out, and we can book even a discovery session just to see if this is right for you, because the most important thing is it's a good fit. right? No one
Yeah.
wants to waste any time. And if it's not right, that's more important that it's a good fit than just to bring somebody in. So yeah, would love to talk to people and see what it is that they want and see if this aligns with them and go from there. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Karen.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you, Jennifer. This has been great.
Thank you for listening to Path of the Awakened Heart. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or pathoftheawakenedheart.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about living with an awakened heart and navigating your ascension journey, visit me at jenniferspore.com.